Good morning, everyone. I will try to get this mic where I can work with it, and then I'll begin the meeting this morning. Thank you to everyone for being here today. It's really nice that we can gather. It's been quite a while to begin the process of continuing to advance the VA250. I may need to be closer. I don't. Yes, I think this is better. I'm getting feedback. Okay. So it seems we're probably ready and good to go. So at this point in time, I would ask Director Cheryl Wilson to call the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with you, sir. The microphones are a bit temperamental, but we'll make do. Vice Chair Locke.
Present.
Chair Fiorina. Delegate Askew. Chief Atkins.
Here.
Mr. Bain. Ms. Bowling. Mr. Bosket. Dr. Bradburn. Ms. Bulova. Here. Ms. Chambers. Mr. Clark.
Here.
Ms. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Dendy.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Present.
Mr. Fleet. Ms. Girdleman.
Here.
Secretary Gadara is on her way, Mr. Chair. Mr. Headland. Mr. Ingrao.
Here.
Dr. Kaminsky.
Dr. Stanton here on behalf of Dr. Kaminsky.
Thank you. Delegate Krizit.
Here.
Ms. Langen.
Here.
Ms. Marr.
Present.
Justice McClanahan. Ms. McClenny.
Here.
Senator McDougall.
Here.
So-
Justice McClanahan is on the virtual.
Yes.
Thank you, Justice McClanahan. We see you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Monday. Senator Norman. Delegate Plum. Ms. Ramsey. President Rowe. Chief Richardson. Ms. Stone. Chair Austin is here. Mr. Chair, quorum is present.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone, including those who are joining us virtually. Members joining virtually, please be reminded that the meeting materials can be accessed at va250.org/meetings. So 26 is here, and believe it or not, we're moving through the clipping off years quicker than I like. But this is the time and the milestone that we've been waiting on. 26 is very important to this commemoration. And I'd like to thank all of our local committees, advisory councils, hundreds of partners and supporters, our staff, outstanding staff, dedicated leadership, Virginia programs, exhibits. Our mobile museums have established a national standard of excellence for the 250th. America Made in Virginia is truly a trademark that resonates well all across the Commonwealth and across the nation. We're here several key updates today, including reviewing the schedule for the mobile museums and review of the spending plan for FY26/FY27. Before we begin, though, I'd like to thank two members of our commission who have served in ex officio roles. And this will be their last meeting. Secretary of Education, Amy Gadara. And I don't think Secretary Gadara is in the room yet, but I know Zach Jacobs.
She's online.
Gone away. Well, Zach, her deputy, is here and can convey our comments and remarks about the outstanding leadership that Secretary Gadara has provided. Advocating for the VA250 since she began serving the administration, thanks to her leadership with the Education Steering Committee, the Department of Education, and museums under her leadership. Virginia students are fully engaged in civics and history learning. Secretary Gadara established a threefold division for education and sparks to civic renaissance. I can't say the word, I apologize. And is celebrating democracy, and making history come alive. Secretary Guerrero, we thank you for your tireless efforts and constant championship. The next is a person, Julie Langdon, with our Department of Historical Resources. Julie is retiring as Executive Director of Virginia Department of Historical Resources later this month. I think she told me as I came in the door, Friday is probably her last day. And Julie is just phenomenal in that position. She leads the semi-quincentennial capital improvements grants process, enabling historical sites throughout the Commonwealth to prepare for the 250th. Julie, we thank you for your service and wish you well in your retirement. And I, for one, can say what a void that's going to make. Julie not only represented the Department of Historical Resources at the executive level, but she also represented it throughout the Commonwealth with a sense of feeling and touch for what she was and the Department of Historical Resources were going to help or contribute to. And it was so sincere. So Julie, we thank you generously for your efforts and your time in serving the Commonwealth. And as I said, we would truly miss you. So before we begin the agenda, I'd like to ask Vice Chair. Yeah. Thank you, Delegate. I'd like to ask our Vice Chair, Senator Locke, for her comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome everyone to our first meeting for 2026. It's hard to believe that we are actually in 2026 and beginning our commemoration for the 250th anniversary of the founding of this nation. And as we begin this year, we're looking forward to our community engagement and special presentations that will take place throughout this Commonwealth and across the state this year, and to celebrate our remarkable history and stories that helped to create and found this nation. And everything that happened here in Virginia set the foundation and the vision for creating a more perfect union. So thank you all for all that you're going to do this year to help in the commemorations across the state. And thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Vice Chair Locke. Typically at this time, I would ask the Honorary Chair, Carly Fiorina, her comments. Carly and her husband are at this time experiencing the flu, and Carly regrets that she couldn't be with us today. But I want to say in Carly's absence, no one works harder for this commemoration or the state of Virginia in bringing forth the celebrations for this commemoration of the 250th than Carly Fiorina. Carly's been such an asset and such a pleasure to work with. We all want to wish her a quick recovery from the flu, she and her husband, Frank, and we regret deeply that she can't be here with us today. So with that, I'll move to the approval of the minutes from October 21, 25. Is there a motion? Are there any need for changes or amendments to the minutes? And if not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The minutes are now adopted. We move down now to the development report from Ben Dendy, our president of Virginia Commemorations, Inc. Ben, are you prepared for that?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
So in 2025, we received 29 new gifts. Total raised in gifts and pledges in 2029 is 1.1 million. Total gifts, pledges, and in-kind raised to date is 6.3 million. We facilitated over 40 solicitation meetings with prospective donors, submitted 27 proposals, and sent 55 tailored meeting requests. I thank Chair Austin, Vice Chair Locke, Mr. Bain, and all those that have been involved in helping us to generate these private funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dendy. And just let me say that Virginia Commemorations, Inc. is an arm's extension of this commission, and Ben contributes a great deal of his time, Mr. Dendy, to making certain that we work hard and we bring forth fruits to the commemoration. And Ben, we thank you for your work. And every other week there's a 7:30 a.m. call, and Ben is already standing guard with a gavel and telling us what we need to do marching forward. So Ben, thank you, and thank Virginia Commemoration for your efforts there.
Thank you.
Now we move down to the advisory council updates. I think we had Chief Atkins from the Tribal Nations Leadership Council prepared to give some comments. Chief Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do have some comments. First, I'd like to echo the things you said about Julie Langdon. And if I had a couple of days, I might could get through all the accolades that I would extend her way. But she has really been an asset to the Commonwealth, has been an asset to the work of the Virginia Native community. So again, thank you so much, Julie. Reggie and I have gone back and looked at what the Virginia Tribal Nations signature event ought to look like. And we started out thinking more of having a grand powwow. But the more we thought about that, we want something that's going to have a legacy effect. We don't want a one and done. We'd like to have something that's meaningful, that helps continue the conversation that we had for the common cause for all. And we envision at this juncture an event that would start with a dinner on Friday night, the 24th, I believe it is. And then we would have an all-day event on the 25th. But we're looking at bringing in people from across the United States who can help speak to the issues that we're trying to convey. One thing that has really pushed Reggie and I both in this direction is I looked at a piece that was in the paper on op-ed on the Times-Dispatch on January 2nd. And it was written by William Lambers. He said, U.S. needs a new year of peace and charity. And I concur with that 100%. But as he leads into the second paragraph of the op-ed, he says, as we enter a new year with new challenges, America must remember its roots as a peaceful nation. And as a native, that didn't resonate positively with me because it depends on how you define your roots as a peaceful nation. So it wasn't very peaceful for the natives when the settlers landed in 1607 and began a merciless attack on the native people, stealing land and trying to kill our language. As I've said often, a scant 3 years after the settlers landed, they went about annihilating the Pasquotank Indian tribe. So one thing that I see from where we're going on this is people may take a second look before they write articles like this that completely ignore the pain and suffering that natives went through shortly after the settlers landed in 1607. So when we look at Virginia, America made in Virginia, I also look at America where the atrocities that have been heaped on the native people was also made in Virginia. If you look at the Trail of Tears that people talk about all the time, 1830, that template was set here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It wasn't the Commonwealth at the time, obviously, but that template was set back in the 1640s. So and when we look at commemorating 250 years, it's actually more than that. We're going to be looking at some things that led up to the 250th, things that led up to 1776. And we also have a lens that looks at what's going on now, after the American Revolution. So it's a weighty subject, but it's one that we'll need to contextualize by looking at the bookends, what went on before, what do we anticipate afterwards, and what actually happened to precipitate that movement in 1776. And I think all of us are geared toward realizing that dream of a more perfect union, realizing the dream that our Creator says that all of us are endowed with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if we look at some of the linchpins of the amendments to the Constitution, we have to look at the Fourth Amendment and the 14th Amendment and look at how that has impacted people. For many years, that was an aspirational dream for people of color, due process, equal protection under the law. So as we look at the signature event for the Virginia tribal nations, we want to examine some of those things. Where are we now opposite where we want to be? And to accomplish that, we want to bring in some, jurists, some people who serve on the bench, who examine the Constitution and deliver decisions based upon the Constitution. We would like to invite members of the Virginia congressional delegation. I think we would want to have the Speaker of the House, the President pro tem of the Senate. We'd want both the majority and minority leaders of both of those houses. And as I said, we anticipate inviting members of the judiciary. We're looking at Native American leaders who are versed in law, not only Indian law. We want to reach out to members of both the U.S. House and Senate, in addition to the congressional delegation. And obviously some people within the President's Secretariat, cabinet officials. Carly Fiorina has already been making some overtures in that arena and is getting positive results. But we want a signature event that can build on some of the things that we've done thus far. And I keep going back to Common Cause. We had some stellar events that were provocative, intellectual, where people look at where we are versus where we need to be. And we've made progress on lots of fronts. So I don't want you folks thinking that I'm saying, woe is me. But I think we have to realistically look at where we are. And I think this signature event that we're looking at, that Reggie and I've talked about quite a bit, is a chance to continue that conversation and then to even build for it. I don't want it to stop July 4th, 2026. I want us to create something that's going to stimulate thought and action to help us move toward that more perfect union. So what I'm describing is a signature event that will commence on a Friday night with a dinner, and we're looking at some invitees. I'd like to keep that down to 100 or less. And we are also in that vision, Kitke Carroll, who's the executive director of the United South and Eastern Tribes, and I are looking at ways to bring in some funding from organizations that can help defray some of the expenses that we will incur as we try to make a signature event that will complement all the things we've done thus far and pave the way for an enlightening of people moving forward, so that when people talk about Native Americans, it's not like a deer in the headlights. It's people will understand who we are and where we are, and they'll understand the resilience that has manifested itself in at least 574 federally recognized tribes for us to get to where we are today. We want to help people understand what a sovereign nation looks like. And it's a steep learning curve, both within the state legislature, and I'm not casting any indictment because it's new ground. But we as sovereign nations have the same relationship with the government of the United States as France or Germany. And we have to understand that. And I believe as part of this signature event, we can even kind of unwrap that to the extent that the public understands it. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to get together and collectively build this signature event that'll occur April the 25th, 2026. So I've done a lot of talking, but I'm pretty excited about the potential therein and just generating that excitement around the table so we can put we go shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, making this a spectacular signature event. Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Chief Atkins. So well said, Chief Atkins. You know, when we began this journey we're going down with this path, we said we would be all inclusive and we would try to unify and bring together. And through the work of you and Senator Locke and others, hopefully we've gained some traction and moved the needle in the direction that it needs to go in. There have been atrocities, tremendous atrocities that people have suffered through, and we don't need to, or nor should we desire to continue in that direction or that path. And I commit and I pledge that any forthcoming signature events, both for the indigenous tribes and the tribal nations and the African American and African American Advisory, we will acknowledge and do our very, very best to do that in a fashion or form that lends itself to a healing and a resurrection of bringing forth united fronts. So thank you, Chief Atkins, for
And
your
Mr.
work.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
That's been evidence in what you and Senator Locke have done. You've given great support to us, and no pun intended, but Senator Locke and I are in lockstep.
So thank you once again, Chief, for your comments. Anyone have any comments or questions of Chief Atkins and his comments? So if not, thank you. Thank you, Chief Atkins. Now we'll move to our African American Advisory Council. Senator Locke will report that. Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, I want to thank all of the members of the African American Advisory Council for your work in 2025 and look forward to working with you again in 2026. One of our first actions will be to acknowledge the life and legacy of the Honorable Judge Rohalaman Kwander, who was a steadfast member of our council, who passed away last year, and we will be submitting a resolution to celebrate his life and present that resolution to the Kwander family. The priority of our first quarter of 2026 will be to strengthen communications and increase awareness, understanding, and engagement of the council with VA250. And we will serve as a part of what we will consider a coordinating ecosystem across Virginia rather than simply looking at standalone events. We will continue to clarify our roles and expectations through strategic communications and engagement with the Tribal Leadership Council, the Education Steering Committee, anchor institutions, and regional partners to seek the best ways that we can clarify priorities, particularly our mutual priorities, and figure out the best way to tell our stories throughout the Commonwealth and let those stories be known. Our proposed 2026 meetings will be in March, June, and September. And our signature events will include Juneteenth, and of course, during the July 4th celebrations, the historic First Baptist Church 100th anniversary, and African Landing Day in August. And if anyone receives the AAA Explorers magazine, Williamsburg, Virginia is mentioned on page 25. The First Baptist Church of Williamsburg is mentioned in the magazine. And that particular event is mentioned there. VA250 commemoration will include numerous African American focused events highlighting Black contributions to the American Revolution, such as the Finally Remembered exhibit on Black patriots, lectures on free Black Virginians, Juneteenth celebrations and local history walks, and major events like African Landing Day. Commemoration and First Baptist Church anniversary, as mentioned, are all planned for 2026. All of this will be a part of Virginia's multi-year effort to tell inclusive stories of its founding. The Black Patriots exhibit of Finally Remembered is running from September 25th through this month. The historical lectures on talks like Forgotten Black Patriots, Loyalists, and Women took place in Matthews, presentations on Free Black Virginians and Enrico, cultural celebrations like Juneteenth and African Landing Day, of course, will continue to take place. Inclusive history trails, initiatives like the Northern Neck Hidden History Trail seek to reveal the significant roles of people of color in those communities, and again, the signature events. And one such event will be taking place in Hampton. I don't know why they didn't talk to me about the date, but anyway, they don't talk to me. Which will be taking place on January 16th. It is to celebrate Hampton's rich heritage and bright future at the Freedom 250 dinner, which will be a night of legacy food and fellowship. And this is done in partnership with Hampton's local committee, the Hampton Roads Convention Center, Hampton City Schools, and Hampton Master Gardeners. The most important thing about this is students at the culinary school at Phoebus High School will be fixing the dinner, and it's a 5-course meal. And so they will fix this 5-course colonial inspired dinner, which will be curated and executed by the students from the Phoebus High School Hospitality and Tourism Academy. So again, it will be on the 16th at the Hampton Roads Convention Center, Freedom 250 dinner. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Senator Locke. And I'll say with the strong leadership of Senator Locke, the African American Advisory Council has made tremendous contributions to celebration at Fort Monroe on July the 4th of this year. It was a well-attended and very successful event, and we were happy to have that there at the first landing. So thank you, Senator Locke and the African American Advisory Council for the good work you've done to contribute. At this time, I think Secretary Gadara has now entered the room and is with us. Madam Secretary, we regret that you didn't hear our comments about the fact of your contributions to the commission. You may have heard them.
I did.
I apologize that you weren't here, but we're very grateful for your contribution and what you've done and what you brought with education in engaging the student body throughout the Commonwealth with the 250. So thank you for that work. Are you ready to give your report?
I am
Madam
ready and excited. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for your kind comments. You have no apology. Amtrak has apologies to give to me. We went about 3 miles an hour between Staples Mill and here. So I apologize. I was late for the meeting. But I'm also sorry that I'm not the Secretary of Technology because I could not figure out how to unmute to say I was present and here. So I apologize for that.
Just remember, we're taking cars off the highway.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're
Here we
great
go.
supporter of Amtrak.
I love that. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Serving on this commission and representing the governor has been just one of the highlights of already an amazing opportunity to be Secretary of Education. And I just want to say of all the work that we're doing in education, this is one of the most important pieces and it's been a true pleasure, one, to work with this commission and make so many new friends, but also to really lead this education steering committee, because the 3 goals, as you all have heard us talk about over the last 4 years, have been to make our history come alive, to spark a civics renaissance, and to celebrate democracy. And there is such a right moment right now in this country for educating the American people of all ages about our history, and especially the history of our founding, the principles, the ideals that are still so important for the next 250 years. And in fact, I'd argue if we don't, or if we're not successful with the education piece of this, there may not be another 250 years of this great American experiment. And so the work really, really matters. And I want to say thank you. And I look forward to cheering on this commission and your work as Citizen Amy. I will show up at everything and cheer you on, and just really thank you for the continued leadership that you're going to be playing. Just a couple quick updates. It's hard in this room to see everybody, so my apologies. I'm trying to make sure I don't have my back to anybody. We had a wonderful last in-person steering committee, last for us, for the Young Administration team, in December. And we brought together our steering committee both online, but a lot of people came from across the Commonwealth. And I just want to assure this commission that there has not just been wonderful events since we last got together. I'll go through a couple of those, but there is a booked calendar for this incredible year of 2026 and all kinds of activities. And I'll just give you a couple quick highlights of what has happened and what will be happening. One, we are set this year again to do what we've done the past 2 years of having an Expressions of Freedom contest for all of our K-12 students. We've given you before those booklets. They're wonderful. I'll come back and talk a little bit about that and something we did yesterday with that. We will be having a statewide oratory contest with a prompt around the founding and about freedom and liberty and American heroes and our history that will be sponsored by UVA and Democracy 360. And it will be open, an oratory contest open to every 2-year, 4-year public and private college student in Virginia. Those oratory contests will be judged by former White House speech writers, and that there will be a March event where there'll be a statewide competition. And that's really exciting that we're getting students involved and reflecting on what our history means to us and what freedom means. The mobile museum, the Department of Education is working double overtime with the commission to make sure that the 2 mobile museums, and I want to say thank you so much to all the great fundraising to make it possible to have not just 1, but 2 mobile museums, that we make sure that every school child, every middle school student in the Commonwealth has an opportunity to go experience this incredible, incredible mobile museum. So we're working on that. The civics bee, if you haven't heard, Virginia was strong. We had our 2nd statewide winner of the civics bee went represented Virginia at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in November. My team had a chance to go and cheer on our wonderful representative, and Zoe, also our 4th grade, we went and visited the teacher who was the civics teacher who has produced both of our civics winners, our statewide champions for the last 2 years, and presented her with a proclamation from the governor and first lady, thanking her for her incredible leadership in the classroom to produce 2 national winners. And I'm also excited to note that the civics bee is open for next year. Please encourage folks, families and schools and anyone you know in your neighborhoods to sign up and start preparing for the civics bee. This is the first time ever in Virginia that every single one of our superintendent's regions will be able to host, in partnership with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce's help and partnership. Every single student will be able to take part in the civics bee this year, which is an incredible opportunity. And finally, just a couple things around, and then we'll have Reading Revolution, of course, during the October week as well. So lots of things and more input, and the Department of Education stands ready to help this commission continue to put all those things into place. I want to highlight something that's happening today that happened at the last minute, and also something that happened yesterday that is pertaining to this incredible work. One, Secretary Linda McMahon, U.S. Secretary of Education, is currently down in Newport News hosting one of her Civics Rocks efforts. She is going to the 13 original colonies and doing pep rallies for history and for civics. And so she is down there with a rally right now. So you might see some of that in the press. And then yesterday, the governor provided a time capsule that is a twin time capsule to the one that is now buried under the George Washington statue that's in Trafalgar Square, that there was a group of private citizens that restored that. There was a commemoration of the 100th anniversary of that statue. And there will now be a twin time capsule that will be placed under the Washington Monument later this spring. And I bring that up to everybody. This is an amazing opportunity for this commission to be part of that. And there's an opportunity to add additional items into the time capsule. So we have put in there again the freedom of expressions winners from the last 2 years. There's a thumb drive, although no one knows if thumb drives will work in 250 years. But so we're also putting paper in, and what we heard from the archivist at the Library of Virginia, thank you, Mr. Clark, that the paper probably has more of a chance to survive than the thumb drive. So we're using a Ziploc bag. But the opportunity is for this group to also think about things that you would like to put in this time capsule. It's small, it's wonderful, it's like this, but to get creative. And I know that Carrie Kennedy has already provided us corn and tobacco to put in, and a write-up about why this matters to the tribal nations. in there, but I would invite all of us to be thinking. I know the Library of Virginia is thinking about putting something in, but this is an opportunity again to have pieces of Virginia commemorate George Washington, the founding, and to be put in this time capsule. And so we will work with Cheryl and pins. We can put all those kinds of things. So please talk to us in the next 7 days while we're still around. Or talk to the next secretary-elect, and I'll go to that in a second, or to Cheryl, and we'll make sure that we get invitations and that everybody is included in that wonderful opportunity sometime this spring. And finally, I've been in touch with Secretary-elect Jeff Smith, and I just want to assure this group that the conversations about the commission and about the importance of the 250th and his role on this commission, I will reinforce all of that. And I know that he will represent the governor well in all of that. And I know that you'll look forward to working with him as well. So thank you so much. And thank you for just all the partnership and all the passion that's exhibited by everyone around this table for this most important celebration. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Gadara. And once again, thank you for the phenomenal work that you've done and how you've engaged other people and aroused the interest and has made a tremendous contribution. So thank you once again, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary. So now we move down to the VA250 Tourism Marketing Grant and recommendations for the commission. Stacy Martin, I think, is with us. Stacy, good morning.
All right, let's see if these work. Great, perfect. So good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Cheryl. So we're excited to kick off the commemoration year. And we can, I don't think I have a clicker, do I? Up here? You can advance the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to give a quick recap of the VA250 grant program. This is managed by Virginia Tourism Corporation. We've been doing that for the past 3 years. And it's designed to drive visitation to events. It's designed to provide a little bit of funding for exhibits and interpretive markers in different communities. And it's designed to leverage public partner investment in tourism marketing. And we can go on to the next slide. So I present to you round 7 of this program. This is our last and final round. We did a tremendous amount of outreach to committees, to localities, to destination marketing organizations, and have a record number of 38 applications in this round. They are all well qualified to earn funding. The recommended awards is nearly $250,000, $244,040, and it's matched with nearly $500,000, which is fantastic. That means another additional $750,000 or so going into tourism marketing during this commemoration year, all the way through the middle of 2027. And next slide, please. So you do have a handout of all 38 programs with quick summaries about those. But I did want to go ahead and point out some really interesting programs. So out in Nelson County, they're activating the term the Founding Foragers, activating our century farms and agritourism and how communities came together to provision the Continental Army. That includes a lot of our Shenandoah Valley producers, which is fantastic to get Western communities involved in VA250. Then we have a number of arts and cultural applications. Some of these are focused on African-American cultural themes, including the story of Crispus Attucks and the Boston Massacre. And that event is happening in Norfolk with Virginia Arts Festival. We're also providing some funding in support of the VMFA and their 3 history exhibits, so we can do some additional tourism marketing and get visitors into the Richmond region with that funding. There's also an application from the Mennonite Brethren Center talking about religious freedom and the role of peacekeepers in the Revolutionary War, which is a unique application as well. And then there's a variety of events and lectures. I know Senator Locke, you talked about the Northern Neck. There's another application in here for some events called the Discovery Symposium in Northern Neck. We hope to bring in folks from states north, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, coming in down that 301 corridor for those events. And then way out in Southwest Virginia and Washington County, they are putting together a Liberty Fest for September of 2026, taking us all the way through the year and bookending with some events there. That will activate all of downtown Abingdon, the Barter Theater, the Marcia, with all kinds of Main Street events, first-person interpreters, exhibits, and opportunities for folks to learn about the role of Southwest Virginia in the Revolution. And we can move on to the next slide. So I wanted to give you an overall summary because this is the last round and we're using up all of our additional funding. We had a total of $700,000 in this pool of funding. We have granted out all but $28 in the fund. So we got right down to the end there. Total match is $1.3 million. So almost $2 million going out in tourism marketing around the commemoration for 91 different activities, events, programs, historic squares, new exhibits, interpretive signs. All of this is driving visitation to our historic sites, communities, museums, and localities. So we're super excited to be able to support this program. We can go on to the next slide then. And so we'll wrap this up mid-2027 and provide you final reports from all 91 programs, as well as some metrics from those programs. So we plan to revisit you in middle of 2027. Depending on the future funding of the commission, we stand ready to assist with tourism marketing. We are opening our normal tourism marketing rounds on February 10. We do anticipate some folks taking a look at history and museum visitation against the backdrop of those programs as well. And we'll be happy to provide you an update on those programs that are also embracing VA250. And I'll stop there and ask if there are any questions.
Are there any questions pertaining to the presentation Stacy has made of the funding for our grant program? No
Okay.
comments, no questions. Stacy, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry. Yes. Yeah, I will need a motion to approve it. Stacy, thank you and thank Julie for the work in working through this grant process. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work to get through the allocation and verifying what the programs are and the intent of the program. So thank you very kindly for your work and your contribution.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would move approval.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Yes, all opposed, nay. Okay, thank you. Thank you all virtually for voting also. So that concludes our grant process for the VA250. We've fulfilled our obligation there. Now we'll move down to our update on Gimme Liberty, Virginia Forging of a Nation. And I think, Christy, you're prepared to do that today?
I am, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of myself and Jamie Bosket, who is unable to be with us today for medical reasons, wanted to give you an update on how things have been going with Give Me Liberty. Just to remind you, this was developed as a joint exhibition between the two institutions, and it premiered, seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it premiered back in March with a grand event that so many of you were there. And I'm pleased to report that during that period from March 22nd to its closure just this past weekend, January 4th, the estimate is about $110 million. More details will be forthcoming regarding visitor survey and how people have responded. But the anecdotal data has been exceptionally positive, and we're very pleased with this. The exhibition will open at the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown, i.e. it's coming home, for the grand celebration down in Yorktown that will take place July 4th. And so we are preparing for that. So the exhibit is now being broken down, and then it will be again shipped to Yorktown as we get ready for its opening. In addition, the traveling version of this exhibition, many of you who have been going back and forth in the Richmond airport, you may have noticed right there in the center between gates A and B, we have a panel display with one object that's on display. And that is scheduled to be there in what we call the premium edition of the panel show. July 4th, it opened of 2025, and it will be there until July 4th of 2026, unless Richmond asks us to extend it. But during this time, their total visitations through the terminal is at 2.7 million. How many of those fine folks actually stopped and looked at it? hard to say, but I can tell you every time that I've gone through and I've watched to see how many people are kind of wandering around it, it seems like a good portion of folks are actually taking a look at it. And that's what we want. It is about the presence. Our total venues for the non-premium version, this is what goes to the middle schools, the high schools, public libraries, and other smaller institutions across the state. To date, we have 60 venues that have hosted the panel exhibition, and that list of venues is available to you as well. Representing, I believe it was about 80 when I looked yesterday, 80 localities, counties that are scheduled through 2027 for this event. In addition, there was a publication that we produced with extraordinary essays from 5 leading scholars on this subject from around the country. The catalog was 2,000 printing, and I think we're going to have to do a reorder of that as we get ready for Yorktown. So that is where we are with Give Me Liberty. Again, looking very much forward to the exhibit coming to the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Hearing none. Christy, thank you, and Jamie for your work. And I look forward to that getting to Yorktown and being presented there.
So there is one thing.
Come back. Oh, careful. Take your time.
I forgot to mention the Yorktown Party Gala, which we hope please put on your calendar now, is for July 2nd. That will be the evening of July 2nd, likely around 6:30. And we will be sending out save the date cards for that event. So thank you again.
Thank you, Christy. Appreciate your efforts. Okay, so now at this time, we'll move down to our program and budget update by our director, Cheryl Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that is an important date to note because we'll all be in Williamsburg for July 4th. So thank you for that time. Mr. Chair, before I begin, I wanted to just point out in the room, you see this beautiful quilt displayed. And Chief Walt Red Hawk Brown had it made by one of the members of their tribal nations and lent it to the commission to tour as the mobile museum tours across the state. So you might want to look at that, and when you see Chief Brown, thank him for the use of that. But Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the commission, as always, it's my honor to stand up and give the staff report. But as always, I remind you that I just stand here on behalf representing so many people, not just our dedicated staff, but so many partners and each of you with whom we work so closely. So thank you always for that honor and privilege. I'm also, representing all the folks on our social media. This morning, I got the latest numbers, 22,750 people following on what we're doing on social media. Hundreds of millions of media hits this year. The news is all tremendous, and I'm always so glad to share it with you. I'd like to ask us to think, to start this by pausing and looking back. 1 year ago today, January 8th, 2025. There was a lot of excitement. There was no water in Richmond, by the way, you'll remember. But we'd already convened the nation's 250th planners once. We'd done Fairfax Resolves. We'd done a number of programs. But we were really preparing. We were on the threshold, laying the groundwork for what would become the first major program for the sesquicentennial. Semi-quincentennial. I went to 150 for a moment. And that was the 250th anniversary of the Fincastle resolutions. At that event, it was a cold morning in Roanoke, a little rainy, and we were commemorating an extraordinary declaration, the first time that the colonists declared that liberty was a cause worth dying for, full 2 months before Patrick Henry said it. And it happened in what we now know as Southwest Virginia. That was a powerful beginning to our program, but a lot of what we envisioned still lay ahead. Since that day a year ago, the scope and progress of our work has been remarkable and tremendous. At that same Fincastle Resolutions event, we launched the VA250 Mobile Museum exhibit. In just 12 months, Mr. Chair, the demand for that museum has been so great that the commission stepped out on faith with private partners and designed and built a second mobile museum. The ribbon will be cut on that second mobile museum next Friday in Abingdon, and it will begin touring middle schools there as the other tours in the eastern and central part of the state. Communities are clamoring for it. Schools are waiting. Everyone's eager to bring that history. By the way, in addition to that, it's been fully digitized. The content has been fully digitized by Google. A tour of the mobile museum is now available as a Google Street View tour, and I know you're familiar with those. And the interactive, how well do you know your country? The questions of the citizenship test have now been digitized and are released to the public in 10 question increments every month. I understand that breweries and wineries are using it as the basis of their trivia night. And again, it has set a national standard. Since last January, we gathered to commemorate the 250th anniversary of Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech. We were in the place, in the moment, separated only by the years, marking that moment. Because we webcast it, we were joined live by 3,514 people watching what was happening in that church. Teachers watched it, and we heard from a number of teachers that they're including that reenactment, Ken Burns's words, the governor's, Carly Fiorina's, as part of their curriculum. Our friends at the Department of Education then built some additional teacher resources around that. So a tremendous success that now lives on in classrooms. As Christy reported, the nation's first exhibit, she undersold the immense popularity of that when it started. That was the nation's first exhibit for the semi-quincentennial. It also marked another first, the first time that two powerhouses in Virginia, powerhouse museums, collaborated on a joint exhibit, Jamestown Yorktown Foundation and the VMHC, and we see how popular that is. And then, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, we convened the nation for one final time. Using the words of Thomas Jefferson, we brought people together in a common cause for all. And we didn't just talk about ideas and ideals of the 250th, we really started putting some meat on the bones of planning. The programs that happened then, Kit Key Carol, not only live on in archives, but have now fueled the ongoing programs. We asked the nation to put their hands up and say they wanted to be counted in. We invited them to, and they did. We gathered as part of that on the Palace Green, and we watched with Ken Burns segments of his new work, The American Revolution. Later that year, we did it at Yorktown. We did it again at Mount Vernon. We didn't stop there. The anniversary of Paul Revere's ride, working with other states. We invited people to take part in a simple but powerful act of remembrance. We said, we invited them, put 2 lights in your window to recall the 2 lights in the window of Old North Church. To remember that history is the ongoing story of making tomorrow better for others when you boil it down. So we invited them to do that. They raised their hand and they said, yes, count me in. Because when all was said and done, when all the lights were counted, there were 1.5 billion posts, shares, likes, tweets, retweets of 2 lights in windows across the nation. That, Mr. Chair, was an idea born at a common cause to all, and it happened because of the leadership of Virginia. That same spirit of unity carried into our 4th of July event at Fort Monroe, which was not just an expression of Independence Day, but it was also an expression of community and belonging. Once again, we invited people, and once again, they put their hands up and said yes. Because when all was said and done, 24,000 people had gathered at Fort Monroe, the largest gathering since it was no longer an Army base. In addition to those who were there, 2,500 people were watching live on the webcast, and thousands have accessed the archives. So all of those good talks live on. And last but never least, Mr. Chair, we all joined together to mark the 250th anniversary of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps. We join with Virginia's military leaders, VMI, the Virginia War Memorial, the Secretary of Defense, and Veterans Affairs, and we honored our service members. In fact, many of you have the presentation coins that were distributed, and if you don't, we'd be glad to give you some. Mr. Chair, we've created a lasting legacy, and that's exactly the intent. And when I stand up and remind us of this good work, it's to show the incredible journey. We've pledged to tell the known, the underknown, the unknown stories, and that's happening. One of the stories I'd just like to share with you, two things that leap to mind. It's hard to pick out because every day so many good things happen, and we are lucky enough to get the feedback, so we want to share it with you. But I was at the Mobile Museum not long ago, and we have a section there on change makers. It's 12 or 16 everyday Virginians who have affected change in their area. And one of them is a story of Molly Adams, a Native woman, and how she impacted her community. A woman came up and she was looking at it and she said, "That's my grandmother." And she was able to identify that. We talked with her for a long time and got her story. She was quite a remarkable woman too. But those one-on-one connections, she asked that we pass along her thanks for remembering that her grandmother was a change maker and that her stories were told. And just this very week, I got an email from the head of a school for the blind and visually impaired. And he wanted to thank us because our lapel pins are raised. And one of his students encountered someone wearing a VA250 lapel pin and was so excited that it was accessible, that the student knew and was able to talk about it. We're sending that classroom of 50 students a bag of pins, but the teacher was so impressed by the students' enthusiasm that they're going to start a new segment researching blind patriots, blindness in the time of the founding of the country. This is something that belongs to everyone, and mere numbers hardly show it. We extend invitations broadly. We have asked businesses, again, breweries, wineries, if you'd like to be part of the 250th and be a commemorative partner, it costs nothing. Let us know. Hands again put up. Today, nearly 400 businesses are commemorative partners, and that number grows by dozens each week. We've invited local committees, plan events, let us know what they are. We'll help get people to them. As of today, more than 2,600 local events on the VA250 calendar. Our members of the General Assembly have in front of them impact reports to show what's happening in each district. And by the way, we can do that by locality if you'd like to know what's happening in your locality or a specific locality. And the news is huge and tremendous. VA250 is alive everywhere in the state. We're doing it together. You as commissioners, our outstanding and dedicated staff, 134 localities, hundreds and thousands of partners. It matters. It's making a difference. And we're just at the beginning of 2026. As you said, Mr. Chair, it's here. It is no longer on the horizon. You'll see in your packet a section 3.0, which is the America Made in Virginia series of signature events. Please mark these dates on your calendar. These are not, this, by the way, is not at all an exhaustive list of what's happening. These are the signature America Made in Virginia VA250 events. And again, please mark them. You see highlighted here those that will begin in quarters 1 and 2. And leading off will be the Tribal Nations Leadership Program that Chief Atkins has briefed us about today. Details always are evolving with these programs and plans, but please, if you would, not only mark the dates, but share the information. It's always so appreciated when you as commissioners use that large microphone that you have to help draw people to the commemoration. So, Mr. Chair, we're ready. We did not a year ago and 2 years ago and 3 years ago just plan a commemoration. What we really did was start a national movement. Virginia's leading and continues to, and the news is great. That is a synopsis of the year in review. The full annual report will be submitted to the General Assembly next week. And of course, we'll make copies available online. And Mr. Chair, unless there are questions from that, I'll be happy to go on to the mobile museum schedule.
Okay. Any questions pertaining to what Cheryl just presented? Comments? No. Proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, in the last year, we have seen 27,312 visitors to the mobile museum, singular. The new one is on the lot, ready to go. It will go out into Abingdon next week as the first one goes into the Central Virginia and Eastern region. We had 56 visits and have to date seen 16 of 362 middle schools in the state. So this year, you will see in section 4 in your packet, a draft mobile museum schedule as well as community events. I'd like to remind you, one of the priorities of the commission is that the mobile museum serves middle schools wherever possible, going directly to the middle schools, certainly our Title I schools. All of that is happening. In addition, we received 155 requests. In fact, we got another one yesterday, 156 requests for the mobile museum to appear at community events, at fairs, at festivals. It is challenging to balance all of this, but we are doing everything we can to still support the community events as well as the schools. What you see, I want to be so transparent with you. A mobile museum schedule, putting that together is like a puzzle, and it changes all the time until that final piece is in place. So we will let the community events know that we'll be able to come, and that will be absolutely in stone, and we will continue to support that. School visits will probably not be posted on the website. That is a recommendation from our friends at Education to please not telegraph where students will be walking in and out of the school all day going to the mobile museum. But we're working closely with the superintendents and the principals in that school district. The school district will know. So we'll put broad strokes of where it's going on the website and then work locally within the district as we go to schools. Does that make sense? So we're balancing community events and the requests and demand for the mobile museums with the school visits, particularly Title I, and we are doing it in efficiently routing it throughout the state with the 2 mobiles. Okay, so your draft schedule is here. It always remains a draft. As part of section 4.1, you see the community and public events that we're recommending of those 155 applications. When you hear from people that we'd really like to be sure that mobile museum comes to our community event, and I know you do because I hear from you that your constituents would like it to come, please do let us know. We will work it in every step possible. Beyond that, beyond the public events, section 4.2 is the draft schedule that that visits every middle school through the end of 2027, calendar year 2027, understanding that draft is one of the key words in that comment. And Mr. Chair, if there are no questions about that, I'll then go on to budget.
Comments, questions? Anyone?
I did want to ask.
Yes,
I mean,
Mr.
these
Dandy.
are a lot of community events. Are you comfortable that we will be able to meet our commitment to go to every middle school?
Mr. Chair, the question without a microphone is that's a lot of community events. Are we comfortable that we'll be able to make the commitment to go to every middle school? Routing to middle schools are the priority. And that, of course, happens during the day, during the week, Monday through Friday, during school months. It doesn't count for weekends and it doesn't count for the summer. The community events that we've scheduled are those that are outside of schools. In addition, you'll notice on 4.2, when we had a request for a community event, say on a Friday, we also then took into account doing the schools in that region that week so that we're really marrying and doing it efficiently. Yes, every middle school is going to be served, again, 362 by the Mobile Museum. I have heard from legislators even that in some districts, the middle schools are not that far apart. And they thought it would be more more cost efficient to combine the visit. So for that, I'd like a bit of flexibility in saying that we would directly go to each middle school because sometimes it will work better to combine them. But yes, each of the 362 middle schools will be served.
And I would just say, as long as the middle schools are comfortable with that, I mean, if they could pull it off.
Yes, thank you. And that's another good comment, Mr. Chair. They are, I glossed over a little bit. When the Mobile Museum comes to a school, we now have if you put in mind field day, if you remember field days from schools, everything stops and you do your field day activities. It's going to be a 250 field day. We'll have an entire curriculum for every grade, even though it's not in elementary schools, you know, they'll be involved as well. So it's that day of civics and history learning, again, as appropriate and approved by the principal and the superintendent and the teachers. Oh, thank you, Kevin, for holding it up. The Department of Forestry has, Kevin, you'll have to explain this.
The Department of Forestry actually over the last year went through the entire Commonwealth and collected saplings and essentially acorns and other seedlings of the 12 oldest trees in the Commonwealth. And they collected enough that each school, should they wish, will be gifted a sapling from one of the oldest trees in the Commonwealth to match their geographical area and have their own ceremony and learn how to care for it so that it's cross multiple disciplines. It's not just history, it's our natural history, it's our conservation and preservation as well.
So, Mr. Chair, just as part of that day, again, trees to plant. So it's an entire day. And as agreed upon by the administration, the school administration, we're absolutely fine with extending that day into the evening to support community and family events. So while it's at a school, you're really able to get a lot more people engaging with it. And that is the bottom line.
Okay, thank you. Very neat idea by the Department of Forestry. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Can I just add on, the Department of Education is prioritizing this, and so they are communicating and they're working with other schools that work in partnership with the team to make sure all of this is coordinated.
Right.
This is impossible without the wonderful partnership of the Department of Education. Yes, so thank you.
It's a major undertaking, no doubt.
Major, yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Any other question? Others? Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And now I'll turn to section 5, which is our budget materials. Spending plan. As you'll recall at the October commission meeting, our honorary chair outlined a lot of this and mentioned where we were headed, the companies that would be working on the spending for 2026. As we know, that is not the only year, but a big year, a big milestone. And we have seized the national leadership. As we walk through the materials, you see a summary sheet that shows you where the commission's general fund appropriation was at the beginning of fiscal year 26, where it was on December 31st. Now that we're halfway through fiscal 26, the allotments and expenditures, what's been spent so far this year by category, what's projected and encumbered by category, and what's projected and encumbered for 27 by category. Section 5.2 is a narrative. Again, the numbers all speak for themselves, but a narrative about the marketing program. That's where a lot of the funding for 26 has gone, 7.5 million encumbered. For that. Signature programs, about 3.6 million. Mobile museum, 3.7 million. And then the touring assumptions for the mobile museum. Section 5.3, we start to get into some granular detail on what we project and have allotted for each of the signature programs. And Mr. Chair, I'd be glad to talk about that in any amount of detail you'd like. I'd bring to your attention in the category that says signature events and statewide programs. This is the America Made in Virginia series, the one sheet that you just saw, those dates, save the dates. These are the funds that we project based on best estimates that it will be. The largest expenditure, of course, July 4th at Colonial Williamsburg, might be larger if that does turn out to be a national telecast. All told, though, Mr. Chair's signature events and statewide programs, as I mentioned, total about 3.6 million. The mobile museums, both of them touring, 3.7 million through fiscal 27. So I'm giving you an 18-month lookout. Grant programs are now completed. So unless there is a vote, a mandate to refund the grant programs through Virginia Tourism, Virginia Humanities, and Virginia Commission for the Arts, as the chairman said, that has been that goal, that mandate has been achieved. So congratulations on that. The advisory councils continue to meet, have dedicated staff, and then some seed funding for programs that might come up. The largest spend is for marketing, and that is in 2026. It may be wise to look at what we have spent versus if the goals have been achieved and if more is needed to be spent before we continue to authorize that. And then you have your operations, administration, agency expenses. So, Mr. Chair, all told, at the end of fiscal 27, we would have met our goals. We would have met our goals and expended the funds that have been budgeted through the first portion of the semi-quincentennial. We would expect to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000 remaining at the end of fiscal 27, which is June 30th of 27. So at some point, we'll need to look at funding for that second phase to carry through to 2031 to meet the statutory mandates. And as our advisory council chairs have said even today, to continue that work of forming a more perfect union. Mr. Chair, where can I answer questions or help shed light?
Christie. Ms. Coleman, I apologize. Ms. Coleman, I apologize. Thank you.
Okay, so the question I had earlier, Mr. Denby reported that a total of 6.3 million have been raised, both in kind as well as cash this year to date, 1.1 million. So what I'm curious about and what I'm questions about, I assume that the fundraising is either for general operations and for specific activities and events that would offset the expense that the state allocation would pay for, correct?
That's correct.
That's usually how. So what I'm having trouble with is that I don't see that. And so I'm just curious where those funds are represented here, and are they carryovers in some way?
Mr. Chair, what
Yes,
you
sir.
see here is the general fund appropriation. We're talking about the tax dollars in this budget. The private funds, corporate support offset and join in with the appropriations. What we're looking at in this spending plan are the allocations, the allotments for each program. So they work in two different worlds. This is the general fund appropriation.
And that so if I would, so let me flip the question. For the non-general funds that have been raised, how much, what remains of those dollars? Or what has been allocated or spent?
Shirley, you prepared to answer that? Or Ben, do you know what's the Virginia Commemoration Inc. funds? They're integrated into this budget. Is that correct? I mean,
That's the question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Jessica Kilgar, our CFO, is right here. We have all of that for each of the fiscal years that have completed. We're in fiscal year 26 right now, but I know we have it for fiscal 25, 24, 23. When VCI came over, we're talking about Virginia Commemorations Inc., which used to be under Jamestown. So we have those expenditures for each of those fiscal years. It is, of course, a 501c3. We're reporting on the public appropriation. But I can make that available to the chair, to the president, however you might like to disseminate that.
That's something that should be distributed to all.
Sure. And let me say, Ms. Coleman, we're not going to vote on this today. This was just prepared for us this week. There's a lot of work that has to be done with this. There's going to be some guardrails around this. There's probably dollars that are designated here and defined here that are not going to be spent. There's going to be some work after this meeting to define that and to bring some more detail to these line items, if that helps you in any way. And I promise you that there will be a budget brought back that will reflect the answers to your question. Okay?
Yeah. In one document.
Fully understood.
Get an above the line that was general fund expenditures, and then a below the line.
The VCI
that
budget.
is the
Yes.
non-general.
Correct.
So that we can see where our balances are and what we're really asking for, if we're, going to be making a request for additional dollars to the General Assembly to carry us through 31.
That's,
So I think
I
we really hope.
think that's exactly what we're going to be looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Any other questions, comments? So this is basically a spending plan that has been brought forward. As I just said, there are going to be some guardrails around this. I can assure you that before a document is brought back to you, we will not spend anywhere close to the budgeted amounts given here.
Mm-hmm.
But we will bring back a document with a defined budget and where the dollars are going. And Christie will incorporate your concerns and show the non-general fund and the general fund dollars. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, online here,
Mr. Duncan, sure.
if I may, thank you. I went back and looked, and the first meeting of this commission that I attended was actually January 8th of 2021. So 5 years ago to the day. And I remember some of those early discussions. If I could be reminded, and it might be helpful to some of the other folks on the call as well, to remind us of what our charter says about when we sunset and what types of activities we're going to be doing post July 4th this year through July of 2027. It's obviously the next 6 months are tremendously important, and I don't want to take focus away from that. But as a national leader and the tremendous work that's been done and how wildly successful we've been in leading this commemoration across the country, I would just like, maybe not for this meeting, but perhaps the next meeting, to have a fuller discussion about what that post fiscal year 2027, possibly up through 2031, looks like. If there's an appetite at the General Assembly to continue to fund these types of things, because that is a very important part of the story as well, too. Not just the documents and the lead up to the declaration, but the actual fighting and the war itself. So,
Mr. Duncan, let me say that we're researching that right now. We're going to fulfill our obligation with the mobile museums through 27. We'll look at our revenues and our fund balances and see what we have the funding and the ability to accommodate, and what events that occurred between 26, 27 to 31, we feel we should give attention to and give a financial obligation and commitment to see that we celebrate those. Does that answer your question, David?
Yes, it does. In terms of, there are lots of contributions made by Virginia civilians and soldiers during the course of the war that would be great opportunities, I think, for learning. Very important stories to continue to tell through those out years.
So, David, I would ask that you share what you see as being beneficial that would deserve recognition through that process to help us come up with a schedule. Please.
Happy to do so.
Thank you for your kind of comments. Okay. Anyone else? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to
Mr. Dendy.
I agree, but I think the state government funds and the private funds have been targeted at this point to having a very successful 2026 and to having it well marketed. And how we do on that year and what we deliver will have an impact on what we're able to do going forward. But right now,
of course,
it has to be on 2026.
Yes, correct. Any other question? Yes, ma'am.
I would say that
Please.
brief comment as we think about, 31 and what happened there, of course, I'm down at Yorktown. And we'd love to see us continue on this 5-year journey between now and 31. The opportunity to be really interested in hearing. I'm glad that you guys are looking at that and understanding that funds are limited, but we really supportive of seeing what we can do to start looking here for this year. Yeah.
So let's change that from you guys to we guys.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be looking for input from you on what you see as significant and important that we should pay attention to and try to bring attention to. Okay?
And I did mean all of
it. I knew what you meant. Yes,
Right.
Sure.
And Mr. Chair, to that end, I'll just say real quickly, I'll leave this with you and with any members. Kevin Hampton, our historian, has started just this document, key events involving Virginia 1777 to 1781. And right now it's 63 pages. Now, that doesn't mean that all of those are large events, but they all are significant in some way and have the stories. So this infrastructure can continue easily.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out that Humanity Publishing Encyclopedia Virginia project is including a lot of those stories, documenting that narrative through the end of the conflict of 1781, and so that's a good place also to find out. That should all be published by the summer.
Great. Great tool. Great asset. Thank you, Pete. Anyone else? Great. Good conversation. This is what we need. Engagement. Okay. Anything else, Cheryl?
No, sir, that completes my report.
So what's been presented to us today is going to be perceived as a spending plan. We're going to go back and work on this document. We'll narrow this document. We'll bring a more detail to it, and we'll bring it back to you. And Christy will engage your comments in regard to defining the revenues and where they come from and how they're spent. Okay? Anyone else? Any other questions pertaining to what Cheryl has presented? Okay, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The only thing I see left is the acknowledgement of the proposed commission meeting dates. And the first being April 21, 26, 10 a.m. Tuesday. July 21, 26, Tuesday at 10 a.m. October 20, which is a Tuesday at 10 a.m. and January the 7th, which is a Thursday at 10 a.m. And those meetings will be here in Richmond, either in the General Assembly building or in this building, or maybe the Library of Virginia. But please mark those dates on your calendar. And if you have conflicts, please let us know, because we would like to have a quorum, and we never know who or how many people may have conflicts. We do appreciate everyone joining us virtually today. It's really nice. I wish I could have. I wouldn't have to get up so early and drive down here. And, I want to say this just kind of joking, but I followed Lacey Putney into the legislature. And I remember Lacey, the longest serving member, 52 years, had a raspy voice. So I believe Lacey's ghost has encumbered my body, because every time I get close to Richmond, I can't speak. So I want to apologize for always having to clear my voice. But I thank you all kindly. And is there any other business that needs to come before the committee today, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, I forgot to note, each of our members has the new VA250 passport in front of them, which was a collaboration of VMHC, JYF, Colonial Williamsburg, Mount Vernon, and Monticello. Lists more than 100 places to visit throughout Virginia. And if you have been to the mobile museum, we have our mobile museum cancellation stamp here, so you can get your mobile museum stamp today.
And I've had a lot of people in my district request these and ask, where are they and how can I get them? And so I had some taken home and distributed. It's amazing if they are and where they are, how many people do have an interest in having them. So please pay attention. And if you need some, reach out to Sheriff. Okay. Is there any other conversation or business that needs to come before the commission today?
Mr. Chair, Mark and Gray online.
Great.
I just want to make a comment and an introduction, if I could. It's been my great honor to be the interim executive director here at Gunston Hall for the last 10 months. And we are happy to announce that we have a new executive director. Sitting next to me right now is Chris Eck. And Chris comes to us with a wealth of experience, not the least of which he's a registered archaeologist and has a law degree. And he has worked many years in the historic realm. And I could let him just give a brief background, if that would be okay.
Please. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chris Eck, and for the last 7.5 years prior to coming to Gunston Hall, I had worked as the executive director of the National Historical Publications and Records Commission, which is the grant-making arm of the National Archives. Have funded many, many projects through the years to Virginia, the Library of Virginia, and many of the institutions in Virginia. I'm very pleased to be here today. Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to sit on the commission and keep the seat warm for Chris.
Well, we will. And thank you for your service. And Chris, we look forward to having you join us. And please participate and join in at any time.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you all. All right. Anything else? Okay. And Senator Locke is going to move the motion to adjourn.
I will so move.
So move. I'm getting her warmed up for the General Assembly. That's what I'm trying to do. She's been too quiet today, and that'll change also. So thank you, Senator Locke. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your involvement.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.